My girlfriend pretended to lose her job to drain my savings, then tried forging my name to trap me in debt. I took legal action, and now she's left broke and alone. I'm a 29-year-old guy. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone after work, when she came home. She was crying, full-on sobbing like her world had just ended. I got up, worried, and asked what happened. She dropped her bag, practically collapsed into my arms, and through the tears she said, "I got fired." She told me how her boss had been targeting her for months, nitpicking her work, calling her out in meetings, and setting her up to fail. She said it all came to a head when she stood up to him in a meeting, and he fired her on the spot. She painted the whole thing as unfair, like she was a victim of some hostile workplace vendetta. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She looked so crushed. We spent the evening talking. I reassured her, told her everything would be fine, and that she didn't deserve to be treated like that. She kept crying, saying she didn't know how she was going to pay for anything with her savings so low. I told her not to worry about it, and that I'd cover her half of the rent and other expenses until she got back on her feet. "We're in this together," I said. For the first few weeks, she seemed like she was trying to get back on track. She'd sit at her laptop for hours, saying she was applying to jobs and tweaking her resume. Sometimes she'd show me rejection emails, shaking her head and muttering about how impossible the job market was. It was hard to watch her feel so defeated, but I kept reminding her that things would get better. She'd thank me for being so supportive, telling me how lucky she was to have me. I didn't think twice about paying for everything. Rent, groceries, her car payment. Whatever she needed, I covered it. She'd sometimes order takeout or buy herself little things she said were self-care, and while it stretched my budget, I figured it was fine. She deserved a little comfort after what she'd been through. I picked up extra shifts at work to make up for the added expenses, even though it left me exhausted. But after a while, things started to feel off. She didn't seem as worried as you'd expect someone in her situation to be. She spent more time watching Netflix than job hunting, and started going out with friends during the day. When I'd ask her how the job search was going, she'd get defensive, snapping, "I'm doing my best, okay? Do you think this is easy for me?" I didn't press her too much because I didn't want to stress her out more, but something wasn't sitting right with me. One night, I came home earlier than usual and found her on a video call with someone. She was laughing, looking carefree, and the name on the screen was one of her co-workers, someone I thought she hadn't spoken to since she was fired. When I asked about it, she said they were just catching up and quickly ended the call. Her explanation felt flimsy, but I let it go. I didn't want to accuse her of anything without proof. The proof came a couple of weeks later. I was using her laptop to print something for work when an email notification popped up. It was from her boss, reminding her about a team meeting the next day. At first, I thought it might have been a leftover email from before she got fired. But something told me to dig deeper, so I opened her inbox. What I found made my blood boil. There were recent emails about projects, deadlines, and even praise for her performance. She had never been fired. She was still working the whole time. When she got home that evening, I had her laptop open on the dining table. She walked in, saw me, and immediately tensed up. "What's going on?" she asked, trying to sound casual. I told her to sit down, and I showed her the emails. She froze for a moment, then started stammering excuses. "It's not what it looks like," she said, but I cut her off. "Don't even try to lie. You told me you were fired, and I've been paying for everything while you've been sitting here collecting paychecks. What the hell is wrong with you?" She finally broke down and admitted she had lied. She said she'd been feeling overwhelmed with everything, her job, bills, life in general, and just needed a break. "I knew you'd help me," she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. I didn't think it would get this far. I asked her why she didn't just talk to me if she was struggling. Her response? "You wouldn't have understood. This was easier." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told her she was manipulative and selfish, that taking advantage of me like this was unforgivable. She started crying again, flipping the script and accusing me of being unsupportive. "If you really loved me, you'd forgive me," she said, as if that somehow made it okay. I told her we were done, and that I expected her to pay back the thousands of dollars I'd spent on her. She tried to argue, but I wasn't budging. The next couple of weeks were quiet. I thought she had finally accepted that we were over and had moved on. But then the emails started. I got one with the subject line, what you owe me. Inside was a long, dramatic message accusing me of causing her emotional distress by breaking up with her. She attached fake invoices for therapy sessions, claiming she'd been forced to seek counseling because of the breakup and demanding I cover half the costs, $300. She framed it like it was my fault she needed therapy and acted like paying her was the least I could do. I stared at the email for a while, trying to process the sheer audacity. Therapy invoices? Emotional distress? She was trying to make me feel guilty for breaking up with her after she blatantly lied and used me. But what really pissed me off was the way she phrased it, like I owed her for all the damage I'd done. As if I was the villain here. I wasn't about to let her get away with it. I wrote a short, no-nonsense response. I told her I wasn't paying her a dime and that if she wanted to pursue this further, she was welcome to try legally. I even CC'd a lawyer friend of mine, making it clear I wasn't playing games. My friend chimed in with a detailed response pointing out that the invoices were riddled with mistakes, including a misspelled clinic name and missing legal details. He also reminded her that falsifying documents could land her in serious trouble. Her reply came within hours. She backpedaled hard, claiming it was all a misunderstanding and that she never actually expected me to pay. I knew she was panicking because she got caught, but I wasn't about to let it slide. I forwarded the whole exchange to her HR department. If she wanted to play dirty, she could deal with the consequences at work. I heard later that she got pulled into a meeting about her behavior, though I don't know exactly what came of it. You'd think that would have been the end of it, but she wasn't done. I started getting messages from mutual friends, asking why I had ghosted her and left her in such a bad place. It didn't take long to figure out she had been posting vague, dramatic statuses on social media, framing me as some kind of abusive, controlling boyfriend who had abandoned her when she needed me most. She even shared fake screenshots of text conversations where I supposedly said awful things, like calling her a burden and saying I didn't care about her. At first, I wanted to ignore it. I figured the people who mattered would know the truth, but the messages kept coming. Some of our mutual friends started turning on me, saying I should have been more supportive or accusing me of being cruel. It was infuriating. She was twisting the narrative and dragging my name through the mud because I had the nerve to stand up to her lies. I decided to hit back, but not in the same petty way she had. I gathered every piece of evidence I had, screenshots of her fake invoices, the emails proving she was still employed, and even a record of all the payments I'd made to cover her bills. Then I made a single, calm post on my own social media. I laid out the facts, explained what had happened, and let the evidence speak for itself. I didn't call her names or stoop to her level. I just told the truth. The response was overwhelming. People who had initially believed her lies apologized, saying they had no idea what was really going on. A few mutual friends even reached out to share their own stories of her manipulative behavior. One of her coworkers messaged me privately, saying they'd seen her pull similar stunts with other people at work. By the end of the day, she had deleted most of her posts, and within a week, she wiped her social media entirely. I didn't hear from her again, at least not directly. But she had one last trick up her sleeve. A month later, I got a call from my landlord. He was confused about a lease renewal form he'd received, supposedly signed by me. The thing is, I'd already given notice that I was moving out. When I saw the document, I realized she had forged my signature to make it look like I'd agreed to stay on as a co-tenant. She probably thought I wouldn't want to deal with the hassle and would just keep paying my share of the rent. On top of that, she emailed me, saying she'd let it slide if I sent her $1,500 to cover the next 2 months. That was the last straw. I called my landlord, explained the situation, and showed him proof that I had given notice to vacate. He was livid, not just because of the forgery, but because she had already been late on rent twice since I moved out. He voided the fraudulent renewal and gave her an ultimatum: pay up or move out. I also filed a police report for the forgery, just to cover my bases. When she found out, she tried to play it off as a misunderstanding, saying she didn't mean for it to go this far. But by then, it didn't matter. She was stuck with the full rent, and the forgery report left her with a permanent stain on her record. I didn't hear from her again after that. In the end, she burned every bridge she had. Mutual friends stopped talking to her coworkers saw her for who she really was, and her landlord wasn't willing to cut her any more slack. From what I heard through the grapevine, she eventually moved to another city to escape the fallout. As for me, I moved on. It took some time to rebuild my finances after all the money she bled from me, but I learned a lot from the experience. I learned to trust my instincts and to set boundaries, no matter how much I care about someone. I also learned that some people will take as much as you let them, and it's up to you to say enough is enough. I won't lie, it felt good to watch her lies unravel. But the real revenge was knowing that I was free of her manipulation and able to move forward with my life. She, on the other hand, will have to live with the mess she created.